Hey everybody, it's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and today I'm going to do a pretty fun video because I'm going to be reviewing another custom keyboard. So for those of you who don't know, I've reviewed some audio products in the past that come from a website called Apos Audio. I've purchased stuff from them, stuff has been sent to me for review from them, and I'm happy that they've helped me in supporting the channel, because when you're a smaller channel like mine, not every single audio brand wants to work with you. So going through Apos Audio and giving me that kind of selection and availability without the stress of trying to reach all of these brands has been huge. So huge thanks to Apos Audio for working with me and also for helping with providing this content for you all. So if you are shopping for stuff that's featured in this review or other reviews I've done in the past, anytime I can, I typically include the Apos Audio link. It's a US-based website, kind of like an audio Amazon, if you will, that specializes with carrying audio brands, and that includes amps and DACs, headphones, and now keyboards. Now I've done a couple other builds where I've actually used stuff from Apos Audio, just not the keyboard itself. This is the first time that a keyboard has been acquired from Apos Audio. And this is the Idobao ID67 V2, which has south-facing LEDs on the bottom, RGB LEDs. It retails for a higher price, but Apos Audio has basically been selling it for $120. It's also available in multiple colors, so you can kind of pick, which one suits the build you're looking for. I wanted to do something fun with this build. So I love coffee. That giant Stanley cup isn't for water. It's actually full of my 4-shot latte that I make every day to get through the day. So I'm a huge coffee drinker, and I found that they also carry these caps. So these are their Type SA. It's from Kono, but it's the espresso keycap set. And I have 3 bags here. More on that in a second. But basically, these are double-shot ABS plastic espresso caps. You can get different versions. I got the novelty keys as well because I love how the legends are printed. It has like little espresso-themed stuff on it. And it's a SA profile, which I really like the SA profile for how it looks when it's all put together, which you'll see later in this review. And then also from Apos Audio, this has been my favorite thing so far on the keyboard side, is their mouse mats or table mats. They have huge mats. They're really high quality. Like, do not let the price fool you. I've purchased, 12 to 15 different desk mats, because when I do a lot of product close-ups and other videos, I use giant mouse pad mats as a backing for a lot of my shots. I like it because it gives me different stuff to work with. And the Apos Audio mats that they sell are super thick, and the prints are really high quality. So even if you're not in the market for a keyboard or switch cap set, either one, take a look at their mats, because you can use those for anything. They have some really cool designs, and because this is a new program from them, they're adding tons of stuff all the time. So this is not usually my style, but I wanted to tie this all in. So I did the Fox mouse mat. Now it has like a green print, it has a little fox in the corner, and I wanted like a fall winter themed build between the espresso caps with the browns and tan colors. We'll talk about the accessories here in a minute. This is just going to be a fun build. I'm not one to say that every single keyboard is going to be perfect and this is the one you have to buy, but I think it's fun to learn about it. Look how gorgeous this orange is. It is stunning. I love this color in real life. The pictures really don't do these justice. This has some weight to it because it has a clear acrylic bottom with a brass weight. So this is where some of the weight's coming from. It is still pretty well balanced though. Yes, it's a little bit more top heavy, but it feels solid overall. Stabilizers are included and pre-mounted, so we'll test those out later. I haven't built this yet, obviously, so more will come later in the review. Now, this is an integrated plate, which some people like and dislike. Integrated plates, there's gasket mount, there's top plate mount, and integrated. Those are usually the 3 you see. Integrated has a very stiff bottoming out. So when you press the keys, some keyboards, if you press in, you'll notice the keys flex in and out, but the board doesn't necessarily, or the actual chassis isn't moving. It's the board inside that's flexing. I usually like gasket mount because it's really quiet, and I love working with gasket mount boards. However, with an integrated plate, the one benefit is, depending on the key switch you buy, this is a very consistent sag, if you will, or lack thereof, across the board, so you have a very uniform typing experience. So there are pros and cons for the integrated plate because of that. Now, one of the downsides to an integrated plate, aside from being a very stiff, hard bottoming out, which some people like or dislike, they have a different sound. And again, some people may like or dislike the sound. Now my last build, I did the Win Studio Sign 65. It's an insane board. It's over $300 just for the chassis. And I love that keyboard. And I put every single piece of foam on, I gasket mounted it, and it has a very soft bottom end. I even did the EpoMaker Sea Salts, the blues switches, and it's very soft, almost too soft. You don't really get like a clear feeling of bottoming out, but I did that board specifically to be as quiet as possible. So you could still do between O-ring modifications on switches, underneath the cap, or different foams and different switch types. You can still play around with the bottoming out feel to kind of fine tune it. This was more of a fun build, admittedly, because I love the idea of how this is going to look together. I've envisioned it. Now, the Kono keycaps aren't cheap, and none of this stuff that I'm talking about you have to buy exclusively on APOS. You may like just the caps, but you have your own board, or you may love the idea of this board and all the color variety you can get, but you have a different keycap profile or design in mind. These are from Kono. I already mentioned that earlier, the double shot ABS. I think the gloss black or the gloss finish, it's a slight gloss, is going to help a little bit with fingerprints over time. Typically people prefer PBT because they don't shine like ABS does after a while. However, ABS gives you a greater selection for boldness and color pop. So depending on the look you're going for, sometimes ABS is the way to go. I already mentioned I love the SA profile, how it kind of tapers in and it's scalloped a little bit. But these are pricey. So the TKL kit is $75. The alphas are $50, and the novelty kit is another $50. So all in, $175 for switch caps is quite an expensive selection. And considering that, and I'm not saying this is like APOS selling it for a lot, because the Kono caps are just expensive caps. I wish they presented it better than just a plastic bag, but at the end of the day, once it's built, I'm not going to look at the bags anymore. So we'll see how they all come together. I do love the color depth of these though, and I think it's going to work really well with that board. Now, as far as the switches go, I went with the Gateron Milky Pro yellows. It's a really nice linear switch. They're pre-lubed, which I like because I don't have to deal with taking them apart. Some people like the lubing process, and you can still do that with these, but these are basically ready to go out of the box. It's about $38 on Amazon right now for 108 packs, so this will work in a larger keyboard configuration. The ID67 being a 65% board, so I am going to have a few extra switches. But I like linears typically, and with these, because they're pre-lubed, hopefully it sounds good. 50 gram operating force, 4 millimeters of total travel, 2 millimeter actuation, and they are transparent. So if I do decide to go with a transparent key later, or something that lets light through, my switches are good to go. Keep that in mind, when you're shopping for switches and caps if you want a particular look. Now, these don't have a shine through, so I'm going to have a little bit of glow under the key, but that's about it. That's okay. I wanted this to be more about the key color scheme and less about the RGB though. Now the ID67 comes with some accessories in the box. You have the rubber feet, of course, some screws for replacing or modifying the stabilizers, and keycap and switch puller, of course. I have my own that I like a little bit more, but at least it comes with a decent one out of the box. And a standard looking USB-C to a cable. This one looks like a telephone cord, so I'm not a huge fan of this cable personally because it's not like one of those higher end coiled cables. Now APOS does sell some of this stuff, and they're going to carry more. They don't carry the switches right now, so you will have to shop elsewhere to find a switch that you like. Again, why I mentioned this one for Amazon. That could change by the time you're watching this, but we're going to go ahead with the build process and kind of see how everything goes. So let's start with the switches. These are actually really nice switches. Listen to that. I like the way these sound, and they do feel nice. I haven't actually tried these before. I usually use different switches, so this is the first time I'm trying the Milky Pro yellows. So because this is a south-facing LED, you're going to want to make sure your pins, this is a 5-post switch, which this board supports. So just make sure your pins are on the upper side of the board, and it should be pretty easy to snap in. You always want to be careful that you're lining it up, because if it's not perfect and then you just press it in, you're at risk of bending the pins. So far so good though. Now, I can see why an integrated top plate is such a passionately discussed item online, because there's pros and cons. I mentioned earlier about the sound and how stiff it is, but one of the pros of an integrated plate like this is that the color matches. So depending on what switch caps you buy, that might be something to consider as well. If you don't like seeing this gorgeous orange board but then have a black inlay because you went with a black plate top mount or gasket mount, having this nice anodized orange, in my case at least, to continue that look, could look really nice depending on how this all comes together. once the switches are put in. So I'm pretty excited to see how that looks. Now this board is pre-assembled out of the box, obviously, so you don't really have to do anything to just kind of get up and go. I'm just straight up unboxing it, putting in switches, and then we're going to put on caps and see what I think of it. So I'm using the stock stabilizers. I haven't lubed them in any way. I haven't modified or replaced them. Everything is as it comes out of the box. You can change the stabilizers, of course, if you'd like to modify the sound or performance, because usually stabs that are included may not perform as well as I drop a switch on the floor. So we're almost there, home stretch, and then we're going to move on to the caps. All right, so everything's been put together, and again, I'm not making any changes to the keyboard itself. I'm just using the Gateron Milky Yellow Pro switches with the Kono ABS plastic caps from Apos Audio. So let's do a quick sound check. All right, so definitely a harder sounding. It doesn't have that deeper like thud sound that some of the gasket or top plate mount systems that I've put together so far have done, but there's no resonance or odd inconsistencies either. So let's do a quick like individual key press. So not too bad. The spacebar definitely needs some work. I do not like how the spacebar sounds out of the box. So I think, and personally, if you're spending this much between the caps, the board, and the switches, I would think it would be worthwhile spending a little bit extra on better stabilizers, because that's kind of loud. You can modify it. You can do tape mods or foam mods. In this case, you would put foam under the spacebar, or maybe try messing around with some O-rings, but it definitely out of the box is quite loud. Now, some people like a louder sound. Some people prefer a clicky switch. So it really just comes down to preference. But that's how it sounds out of the box. So curious what you think. Let me know in the comments below. All right, so I've been using the ID67 for a while now, partly why I have a different shirt on. And I learned a few things that I like and some things that, you know, I just didn't know before. So one, I mentioned the integrated top plate quite a bit. And I know that's always a point of contention for some people. There is no flex. I mean, like every single key is rock hard on the landing. Now you can use O-rings. I might even have some here still. I thought I had a kit out. Let me see. So you can get like O-rings for the switches if you want like a softer landing. It's not going to add flex magically because the plate makes sure that nothing can flex in when you press. A softer gasket mount has quite a bit of give to it, but it doesn't always guarantee it's going to sound better. Case in point, earlier in this video, I did the typing test, and you can hear how loud that space bar is. That's loud. Super loud. So I spent some time taking apart this board completely. I took the PCB out, and then I modified the stock stabilizers. I didn't replace the stabilizers, but I re-lubed them, and I pulled the mount off the board because it's a screw mount stabilizer with the ID67. So I ended up just putting a little bit of foam underneath the switch mounting point itself, or the stabilizer mounting point. Once I fixed that, I basically just took one's design for key switches and then cut them to fit. Another cheap alternative, if you only want to modify a couple stabilizers, is you can technically just get bandages and cut the band-aid to fit underneath, remount it, re-lube it, and you could hear a huge difference in sound just by doing that. So listen to this now. Compared to before, that is a massive difference in sound. Now, just to put that spacebar mod in perspective, the old sound was pretty terrible. The new sound actually sounds pretty nice. It's a lot better, and that's all because of fairly inexpensive mods by doing a little bit of foam and some extra lube. Now, this is the Win Studio Sign 65. It was a group buy board, sells for over $300. I upgraded the stabilizer after my review posted because frankly I was in a time crunch. I couldn't do it in time for the video. But I put the stock spacebar stabilizer back in. So just because it's a premium board doesn't mean it's always going to sound better. And listen to how the stock stab that was included sounds. I'm hitting it pretty hard, admittedly. But I'll do the same here. This actually sounds deeper than that one. And this is a gasket mount board. So don't assume that just because of the design of the board that you're guaranteed to have a certain sound characteristic. Mods go a long way. And chances are if you're doing a custom board like this, you'll be doing some mods. So hopefully that puts it in perspective. Now, the other thing I know, the ID67, this one that's sold on APOS Audio has a clear acrylic bottom, not a metal plate. That does sound a little bit different, and because it's translucent, you can see through it, all the LEDs inside, because there are LEDs underneath the board on this model. There's no foam anywhere. So my other concern was like, eesh, I don't know, zero foam on an integrated plate. It's going to sound pretty bad, but it's actually not a bad sound. The only thing I would probably change at this point to make it like more perfect for me is to just switch everything out to O-rings just to cushion the landing just a little bit more on the switch. Now you probably also noticed that the keycaps are different. I wanted to switch it for two different reasons. I don't think you can barely see it on the side here. My other keycaps that I did mount from APOS Audio are just over there. I kept them in order so I can have a nice clean remount. I wanted to try different caps to hear the sound. These are PBT. I got these on Amazon. I'll have a link in the description below for that. I like these keycaps as well, a little bit lower profile. I like the shape and it kind of keeps the general look I was going for. No coffee theme, just really clear, simple legends, and there's no light pass through. So the other thing I learned, if you hold down the function key, and I got a little battery pack so I can kind of show you. You can customize this, by the way, with the QMK firmware online and modify the keystroke functions, and also you can flash and customize the firmware on the board entirely. Now, if you hold down function, that will, like on the manual, it comes with two different commands. It shows you what every key switch does, but holding down function gives you extra. So going to E is going to toggle the RGB modes. So if you want to do different cycles, different patterns, you can do that. If I type Q, now Q will do, you can see the bottom is lit up right now, but the top isn't. Toggling Q will actually toggle to be all RGB, just the bottom RGB, just the top RGB, or off. So if you don't want to have light on either side or only one side, you can do that just by simply toggling through. So there's little things like that. You can also change the brightness. You can change the saturation. So if you like, let me go back up on brightness here. So if I go all the way up, this is the saturation. Now if I keep pressing U, it weakens the saturation. It's basically white at this point. So that's how you can customize how rich and vibrant the colors are. So there's some customizations you can do. And again, because you don't have to install any software, I like that as well. Honestly, I really do like the board. I think for $120, it's a great deal. And I wanted to highlight this board specifically because it came from APOS, which has a great return policy. I believe it's 15 days, no restocking fee. And then from 15 to 45 days, if you still decide to return it, you have a restocking fee. It's better than some other sites that sell stuff like this. Obviously, Amazon's going to be advantageous in certain areas or not. But the price is great. This is $120. It's less than what Drop was selling it for, and it has the acrylic plate instead of a solid bottom. So overall, not too bad of a board. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about this keyboard today and the fact that APOS is carrying it. Again, I will have links in the description below to help you find everything. So don't forget to check that out. But as always, please like and subscribe if you liked what you saw today. I'd love to see you at the future videos. With that being said, I'll see you next time. Bye.